Okay, this is the multiple choice example scene. So the idea of these examples here is to replicate functionality where you're testing to see if someone's given you the right answer. So is this Miffy? And the idea here is someone would go through this list until they find the correct answer. So you can see here that as we go through this list, this is just activating one of these items over here. And what happens is when we press this button, it's going to give us a result either correct or false. And you can see that it counts the number of times we have wrong. So if I choose Elmo here, that's not Miffy, that's going to be wrong. And that's Peppa Pig, and that's going to be wrong. So let's actually try and get the correct answer. Let's go back to Miffy. And then when we check this, that's correct. Okay, how does that work? Let's have a look. If we take a look at the events in the button over here, we can see that the onPrimary interact of this button is just going back to an object called single check rig. And essentially what this is doing is it's using this check is active script. And the only thing this is checking is if its subject, which is currently pointing to Miffy, is actually active or not. So if it is active, then these two events get run, like the events that are listed here, or the commands that are listed on the onCheckTrue event gets run. And if we have a look at the address object over here, and then the command, all this is doing is activating this temporary message to show that we did get the correct answer. So you can see that this is a timed event. It'll turn itself off after 1 second. That's not really consequential in terms of keeping track of the number. The main event here, or the main command here, is this guy. So what this is doing is it's talking to this number counter here, number holder counter. We can see that this has a suffix component. So the suffix component is just basically like, it just gives you some extra context on what that number means. Let's get rid of that extra detail. Maybe we can put some exclamation marks in here and maybe a smiley face. But yeah, that's essentially what it does. So if this check ends up being true in that the Miffy poster is active, then it's going to run this event. So the other side of that is if we end up being false, this other event over here ends up running and these two commands get activated. So if you track where this thing is going, this is just talking to the temporary message to say that the answer was incorrect. And if we just turn this on, it's going to deactivate itself after a second of being shown. The thing that keeps track of counting, again, is something like this number holder, but it goes to a different number holder. So if we click on this one, the incorrect counter, see that's a different object to this one, but it's of the same type. So again, this has the values. So that's the thing that gets printed out here. But then we can also set the suffix. So maybe we can say sad face. And then we can also do something with a prefix. So we can just say, you got it 3 times incorrect. And if we wanted to change the width of this rig, we can, because that's now going over multiple lines. We just want it to be 1 line. So we go to the value display. So this is where it's the text is being set automatically. Just as a reminder, if we were to edit this text, this is not going to stick because as soon as we get out of there, it's going to get reset because this thing is setting the values of that text field. Okay, so let's just increase the width. 6.23, and then we can also do the width of the other one. And then you got something like that. Now, obviously, we're editing this in play mode, so I was just doing this to demonstrate to you how this is rigged. You should never edit your scene in play mode if you intend to save anything that you change. But in this case, I don't really intend to save anything that I change. This was just an explanation video. So hopefully that helps. Good luck.